Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and YouTube, though I don't really use Plurk anymore. Maybe I should take that out of my intro. Today is Monday, the 9th of June, 2014, and this is episode 82, Rip It, Rip It. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. Nothing to report this week. Mara is officially no longer napping, which makes me sad. The whole 2 weeks that happened was great. Gabriel, no longer napping either. The charity knit along, still going on. It ends next week. It ends on the 15th, so next Sunday, I think. If you wake up on the 16th, which will be the next time I record, and it's not closed and you have something you want to put in, go ahead, put your finished object in. But I'm closing the thread sometime on Monday morning, which is why officially it's through the 15th. But if you squeeze it in on the 16th, that's fine with me. I didn't do any charity knitting or crocheting this week because the ZK is, in less than 10 days I'll be there. So I'm trying to get all the things that I want finished by the ZK finished, which is not going so good. Let's talk about the works in progress. So this is why it's not going so good. I had a week of a lot of ripping. Here are my ZK thigh highs. This is where I was last week. This is where I was on Friday. This is where I was on Friday night. I ripped back all of this. Maybe a little less than this. I ripped back 50 rounds on my thigh highs on Friday because last week I told you I was moving from size 1 to size 2. And it looked fine on the needles. It looked great. But then I tried it on to see how tall they were on my legs, how many repeats I was going to have to do. And the pattern was just completely distorted and it looked awful. I was like, oh, okay, that's a problem. So I ripped back and I made increases on the back. So here's the back panel. And I did increases along the side. And then when I brought in a new pattern repeat, I brought the lace into those panels so that it'll be extra stretchy around my calf and I didn't have to do even more increases for that last pattern repeat because, you know, legs get bigger as they go up for many of us, not for all of us, but for me. So that was a setback. 50 rounds is a lot of work to have to rip out. And here's the, I don't think it's going to show as nicely as it did last week. It's not. But it's this similar pattern, but in knits and purls on the front. Because I wanted the front to be kind of, I wanted the back to be the wow factor. This is worked on US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needles. I'm almost to the knee. When I finish this pattern repeat, I should be to the knee, and I'm trying to decide if I want to continue the patterning above the knee or if I just want to switch to ribbing. I haven't decided yet because my dresses, for the most part, hit right above my knee or below my knee, so going super high with the patterning won't be visible anyway. I'm not sure, figuring it out. This yarn is from 716 Knit. It's 716 Sock in the If the Apocalypse Comes Beep Me colorway. It was the exclusive colorway for last year. I started on a design. Jenna of 716 Knit is opening her Knit Buffalo truck, the yarn truck, soon. And she asked a while ago if I would be interested in designing an exclusive pattern for the truck. I don't know how long it would be exclusive. We didn't really discuss, but I said sure. I had a skein of 716 Boss. This color is pretty good. This color over here, not so good. Okay, so you can kind of see. in It Must Be Tuesday. That's the colorway name. It's a self-striping, and I'm going to make a cowl. And you can't see anything because I got about a third of the way through the yarn, and then yesterday I was like, I wonder if this thing would accomplish what I want in a better way. So instead of ripping out all the way, I just put in a stitch marker and changed what I wanted to change in the pattern, and then continued. I did a few pattern repeats like that, and I sent a picture to Lisa because she's my go-to person for, hey, what do you think? And she liked the newer pattern better than the older pattern, so I ripped out a third of a ball of yarn so that I could restart. And I did. I restarted, but that's as far as I got. So that will be a DK weight cowl, which I think you could work up on worsted, and I'm making a self-striping version and also a version that you can stripe on your own, because I'm making this version in stockinette, and I want to do a garter version, but when you do garter with self-striping, you run the risk of the purl bumps being in the middle of a row, of in between a color change. So I'm going to say it looks sloppy, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't necessarily think that it looks sloppy, but it's not going to give the effect that I want for the cowl. So that's happening. So PS, if you want to test knit that DK or worsted cowl, it should be ready in less than 2 weeks for testing, because I want to have that finished by the ZK to show Jenna the sample. Actually, everything that I'm working on today, pretty much, I want finished by the ZK, so that is probably unrealistic. But that's what I'm going for. Go big or go home, right? Except, 50 rounds on a pair of socks and a third of a skein of yarn ripped this week. The rest of my works have been much better. I'm going to start with the highest point, I think. That's where I'm going to go next. So this is Jacob wool from Two Sisters Stringworks, and that's pretty true to color. This is the second half of the first ply. So over right there, that's the first half of the first ply. So I'm halfway through spinning this, which is amazing. I should be able to get the singles done before I leave for the ZK, and I will probably be able to start plying. I have the second half. I am going to fractal it. So the first half was the small slivers that I split, and the second half is going to be the larger piece. But I do have it marked using removable stitch markers with how much I need to spin per day in order to have it ready for the ZK. So this amount right here, this is what I need to spin today. Totally doable. The Jacob wants to spin a little bit thicker than the others, so it's probably going to be more like the Gotland spin, like 300 and some change yardage, because it just wants to spin thicker, and I don't want to fight with it to be, if I fight with it, it goes cobweb. If I don't fight with it, it's like heavy fingering sport. So I'm going with a heavy fingering sport on this, and I will call it good. And I informed Josh because he wanted fingering, but I can only make the wool do so much that it doesn't want to do. So I'm in an excellent place with this. I'm going to wind this off of the spindle and start spinning that right away this afternoon. I'm looking forward to that. I'm so excited that that's half spun already. That's a great place to be to get the singles finished by the ZK. This is the cake shawl. So I think you can see a lot better what it's going to look like. I'm using 2 variegated yarns, 50-gram skeins. They're Art Yarns Ultra Merino. They're 100% merino. And the yardage is about 380, 390. I'm not going to find the number right now because I would have to look. I think it's 380 for this. So I'm going to knit it up as big as it can go, and that will be my example of how this shawl will work with 2 larger leftovers, not just with a magic cake that you might make. It's going along pretty well. I've been doing 1 repeat a day. I will probably kick that up this week to, well, maybe 2 repeats a day if I feel like it. It's really good morning knitting, so I think when I get to the end of the day and I'm just too tired to work on my ZK thigh highs anymore, I will be picking this up and kicking that into higher gear, so hopefully that is finished by the ZK, because I want all the things finished by the ZK like a crazy person. I worked on my design socks. These are the same design as the pink socks. I haven't told you any needle sizes. I'm a fail. I'm going to tell you right now. Just realized. Okay, I told you the needle size for the ZK thigh highs. The Magic Cake Shawl is US 4, 3.5 millimeters, and the cowl is worked on US 7, which is 4.5 millimeters. Also, the Magic Cake Shawl, the test knitting for that seems to be going pretty well. There's a beautiful picture of Allison's test knit in the episode thread for last week, so go look at it because it's super gorgeous. I love it. These are the cake socks. I think I'm about halfway through the foot. This is the 72 stitch version. I did the pink ones with 64 stitches. This is where I was last week. I only had the toes. I'm not making a ton of progress on this because I really am focusing on the things that I ripped out. But I'm going to plow through it, and this is definitely low priority, but I would really like to have them mostly finished by the time I go to the ZK, if not off the needles. It would be fantastic if they were off the needles. But how am I going to get all that done? I'm a crazy person, right? Also, I picked up a little sewing. I realize now that I sewed that bag that I really missed sewing, and I think what it is I just don't really like sewing on a sewing machine. I don't. I very much like hand sewing. Sewing machines are obviously way faster than hand sewing, but they're also noisy. If you mess something up, it's a lot more stitches to unpick, because if I mess up a stitch hand sewing, I notice that right away. If my fabric becomes unaligned while I'm machine sewing, I might sew like 4 or 5 inches before I'm like, hey, that's not lining up anymore. If, for instance, if a pin slips out, which it can do if you're sewing a really long piece. So I haven't done a ton, but I've done a little bit. I want to make a welcome mat sort of thing, a floor mat for my walkway. The plan is to make it with 124 small squares and 32 large squares. The pink lines are what I've already put together, and the pink dots are what I've already cut out. So this is as far as I am. My plan is to use jeans from Stash, because I have kept all of the... I don't think that I've ever thrown away a pair of jeans. I've pretty much always repurposed it into something else. So I have jeans from the past few years. I try to pass on clothes that my kids outgrow that are in good condition, but some things get destroyed by the time they get to Mara, because Mara, I don't buy her clothes. Her grandparents buy her clothes. So she does get new clothes, but I don't buy her new things. She gets hand-me-downs from her cousins and her brother. which she loves anyway, so whatever. But, you know, sometimes by the third child wearing a pair of pants, they're done. So I have hers, and I wear my pants until they fall apart. I hardly ever donate pants because I just wear them to death. So I have those, and I have been wanting to make a welcome mat for this place with this idea since we moved in. I sketched this right after we moved in, and I just haven't sewn it, but now I am. So this is my progress. It's still very small. I'm using both the right side and the wrong side of the denim on the part that you're going to see. This is the right side with all the seams hanging out because I want them to be kind of frayed. I want that to be visible. I'm using the seams from the jeans because I like it, and that is what's going to be on the floor right outside my front door. Right inside my front door, rather. Those are my works in progress. So hexapuffs. I did 8 hexapuffs, and it's kind of a hodgepodge this week. So I'm going to try to remember, but if I get your yarn incorrect, I'm sorry. I made hexapuffs using the yarn from Allison. So there are these. And there are these two, which I'm going to pick up carefully. These have cashmere in them, but it's a very small amount of cashmere. And as long as I'm very careful when I pick them up with only my nails, it's fine. It will be fine in the blanket because I probably won't be touching my skin with it that much. And if I do, I also have dogs and I'm allergic to dogs, and I have cats and I'm allergic to cats. So I'm willing to put up with allergens in small doses. And then I have 3 hexapuffs in yarn from Mickey, which you haven't seen yet, but I'm going to show you soon. Those are my hexapuffs. Here are my squares for my sock yarn blanket. So these are Mickey squares. These two are from Allison. This one is from Mickey, and then the rest of the ones with stitch markers are from Allison. They're so pretty. I love that. I love when yarn comes with little notes of what the yarn is. Sometimes people put what the projects are. That's awesome. And it's nice to have those. And I do keep all of those. I have them in a Ziploc with little, just a little, I'll show you if it's handy. So, for instance, this is from Haley. It was just a sample of Vampire Polwarth silk, but that's what it looked like. And this was from Allison at Sock Bunny Studios, and there's just a little clip of the yarn. So that's all in there, and I'm going to keep that forever in my journal with my list of how my my sock yarn blanket is set up. I haven't shown this in a long time, so new reviewers may not have seen this, but I am a crazy person, and I document where all the yarn came from and where it is in my blanket. I know that Dawn of Wolf Farms does something similar. I'm going to tape this back in once it's full because it got ripped out of my journal by my child. But yeah, I document where it all came from. If it's my own yarn, I document the colorway, and I just like to have that documentation. So you guys are awesome for sending that. And if you don't send it, it's not a big deal. I don't always document my own things properly because I forget what they are. But I try really hard. And my blanket is getting huge. I'm going to show it next week. I'm going to take a picture, lay it out and take a picture because, you guys, it's ginormous. It covers a really big portion of my craft room floor. I have new things this week. I have a lot of new things this week. First, last week I won I won for the Knit Two Together podcast, Make It May. And the prize that I officially won was one of Lisa's sock patterns, but I already have both of those. And then Haley said, well, I could just make her a custom bag, but she was already making me a custom bag. So it was decided that I could pick another pattern. And at first I wasn't going to. I actually was like, no, it's fine. Or you guys can gift me something off my wish list. That's fine. Last night we were discussing it and I decided that I want to make a panda for my sister because I'll get into that in a minute. I want to make a panda for my sister. So we were looking at designs by Lydia Trisselt, who did Dirk the Dragon. She doesn't have a panda, but she has a bear and she has a raccoon. I decided I would go with the raccoon because the raccoon has a little mask that's removable, and I can easily make that tail into not that tail and change up the striping to be a little more panda-y. So that's what I won from them, and it's awesome, and I love him. So that's going to be amazing. The reason I decided I wanted to make a panda was because we were in a VKN and Lucas, who does Amy eyes, he paints eyes. I ordered some last week and they got here, so I'm going to show you what I ordered. I should have thought this through a little bit more and had this set up. But anyway, last night we were discussing, Jenna 716 said, you should make some anime eyes. So he did. And I was like, I need those in blue sparkle so that I can make a panda for my sister. So that's where that whole pattern thing came from. I do not have those, clearly, because he painted them last night. But I did order a set of eyes from him. And they arrived last week. So this is not the best representation because I didn't think ahead. But there you go. That's what they look like. I got the neon set, which comes with 5 eyes in, you can pick from a selection of 6 colors. So these are 9mm safety eyes. So they come with the eyes and they come with the metal backs, which I like better than the plastic backs. And they're really reasonable price. So normally I don't talk about what things cost, but these are hand painted and they're only $5 for the set of 5, which if you're buying just the plain black ones, yeah, that's more expensive, but you get hand painted, you get to choose the color, and there are several different types of eyes. I got the neon cat eyes. You can also get the neon in sparkle, and I don't know what else. I think maybe there's a pastel. There will be a link to the shop in the show notes. But yeah, he's going to make those anime eyes, and they'll probably be a shop thing, but he's really open to doing customs. So custom orders, so that's really cool. He also does 15mm and 13mm. He can get the cat eye in one, but not in the other. So he gets the round eye in one and the cat eye in the other. But 13, 15mm, like those sizes are not super different for your toy. Anyway, I know there are a lot of toy knit-alongs going on right now, so if you're looking for eyes that will do a little something extra instead of just being black spots, totally recommend this. Some of them are, I'm pretty sure that now everything in the shop is what you see is what you get, like the sets, but they may be the way this one was, where I said I want these colors, and he painted them up right away. But he paints them like the night you order them and gets them out once they're dry, which could take a day or two. It's really fast shipping turnaround. It's awesome. So you'll be seeing another pair in the near-ish future. And then I have a huge box of things to show you. So I told you last week how I was making that bag for a swap. I got my swap box that day. So here it is. First, there was some chocolate nuts that I ate, that night and the next day. And there were those wafer straws with the chocolate in the middle. My kids and I, we shared them last week. They're gone. The rest is pretty unmessed with. I got a bag of minis, or not even minis. These are definite, like, ginormous leftovers, which is cool because I have the 2 blankets. Some of them are small. There are some small scraps, but a lot of them look like, 20, 30 grams of yarn, which is a ton. It's probably like 4 grams for a hexapuffin square for me, about. So I used these 3 colors already, so you've seen them. I'm super excited to put the rest of those in this week. I also received this adorable notebook with a bird and butterflies, and it's got a little magnetic closure thing. Look at that paper. That's super adorable. I received buttons and a needle gauge, which is awesome because I can't find mine, and mine was plastic, so it was broken in a couple places. Ooh, I didn't realize that this was limited edition chapstick. Pomegranate blueberry. I love chapstick so much. There is a set of stitch markers. It has leaves and pink beads and a little lock. And there are also gift tags. I didn't even pull them out to see if they're all the same, but this has a sheet with yarn on its back, a basket of yarn, and it says made especially for you, so that's super cute. I don't have any gift tags. That's awesome. There is a shawl stick, which is great because I don't have a shawl pin, or, well, I didn't have a shawl pin or anything, which I think kept me away from wearing shawls that I made. So now I can actually wear them. There are packs of tea, which I love tea. There's a white tea, lemongrass, ginger, and citrus, and green tea pomegranate. And then multiple hot chocolates, which I also love hot chocolate. I'm super excited about those. And then, so there's a tape measure. And then there is a braid of fiber and a spindle, drop spindle. So here it is. It's a small shaft of wood, cup hook, and a bead whorl. And this beautiful braid of fiber. There's no tag, so I don't know what it is, but it's not anything I'm allergic to, so there's that. That's gorgeous. So I think that my swap partner was super, super awesome. The package that I sent out last Monday has been there since Thursday, but my recipient hasn't gone to the post office to pick it up yet because she lives out of town and the post is collected at the post office. So she's getting it today, and I hope that she likes hers as much as I like the one that I got because it's pretty fantastic. I finished reading Heart's Blood this week. It was so good. The first 100 pages were, they were kind of a slog, but I find that in most books, like the first 100 pages are kind of a slog because it's world building. That's where you get to know how characters are expected to react to things, what's normal, what's not. And then after that, I fell in love. It reminds me a lot of Beauty and the Beast, and that is my favorite favorite fairy tale. The only fairy tale that I've read more versions of is Cinderella, but that's just because there are about 11 versions of Cinderella and only like 11 versions of Beauty and the Beast. I love it so much. I think this is so good. I highly recommend it. I'm sad that it's a standalone book because it's been a while since I've read a standalone book and can't just go out and get another 400-page fix of the story. But it was very, very good. Highly recommend this book. Highly recommend all of the books by this author, who is Juliette Merlier. Or Merlier. I don't know. I don't know how she pronounces that. It's very, very good. There's magic involved. There's romance, obviously, because it's Beauty and the Beast, or reminds me of Beauty and the Beast, but not like ridiculous romance. It's not like erotica or anything. It's very good. I like it a lot. Highly recommend it. And I started reading The Book of Mordred by Vivian van de Velde. I know that I've read more stuff by this author, but I'm pretty sure the last time I read anything by her was like a decade ago, approximately. I'm enjoying this. I'm not in love with it like I was Heart's Blood. The main character of Heart's Blood drew me in a lot more than the main characters of this. This is written in 3 sections with 3 different women as the main character, all who come in contact with Mordred. So it's based off of Mordred from King Arthur legend. But instead of being a bad guy, Mordred is not necessarily a good guy, but kind of a hero, sort of. It's an interesting take. There's I'm actually going to read you I don't know, this is too much. I think this is too much to read you, but I'm going to summarize for you what happens, kind of, I guess it would be like prologue-y or something, but it's not titled. The page doesn't have anything on it designating it as anything. It's a conversation between a scribe or 2 scribes. A monk, definitely, but I think there are 2 scribes. And the scribe says to the knight that he's noticed that he's written down all of the legends of other knights from that time period, but not Mordred's, and he knows that the knight loves Arthur, as everyone does. And then he asks, it won't be too much to read you the last 2 sentences, right? He says, "But surely," I said, "you don't expect that by ignoring Sir Mordred's more noble endeavors you can make people forget that they ever occurred." Sir Thomas raised his eyebrows at me. "Oh no," he said. So this is like the Lost Stories kind of thing, which I'm really enjoying. Not the level of enjoyment of Heart's Blood, but it's definitely very good. I recommend it if you like any of the Arthurian legends, which I do. Although, I have never read the actual, like, the book. It's on my shelf. I just haven't read it. I love Sword in the Stone. I've seen all of the TV versions of King Arthur and Merlin and all of that. Seen them all. I haven't read that book. What is wrong with me? That needs to be like next on my list. These are the last 2 books that I have from the library, and I have one on hold. So I only have 1.5 books from the library left. Maybe I'll read that before I get more books from the library, especially since I'm going out of town for a week. Okay, decision is made. I'm going to read that book. Not next, second to next, because I do have one book to get from the library today. Anyway, it's a lot of babbling. What I'm going to talk about right now, instead of a list, is mini skein storage. Because when you have leftovers after you're finished with the project, how do you store them? It's a good question, right? I just so happen to have a lot of sock yarn on hand, so I'm going to show you how mine are stored. I'm going to discuss first how I don't like to store them, which is leaving them like this. I'm going to reball this, but I left it like this so that I could show you, or I'm going to restore it. I just feel like this gets really messy. It's really easy for a thread to get caught and it to turn into a really big knot. It doesn't store very nicely. So this is getting remade. This is a cake of leftover sock yarn, which is fine. Cakes are fine. I don't love cakes because they don't store as nicely as some other ways. You can stack them, but they're not very stable. So they fall over. They take up a lot of space because you can't really, I mean, look at how much that could compact, but it doesn't stay compacted like that. Not that I want my yarn to be compacted, but you know, if necessary for traveling or something, which I'm going to be doing and transporting many, many, many skeins, that's not the best idea. Balls, just a ball of yarn, not always the best idea either because, again, same problems. Balls don't stack at all. They get kind of messy. See how this is already like, this is a layer under the layer that's right there and it's kind of coming off. So yeah, see, huge mess right there. Don't love that. They don't compact, they don't stack. There's a whole bunch of wasted space where other things can't fit in around it. So this is probably my least favorite method. However, sometimes it can be the fastest and the easiest. I do like to make mini skeins. So I will, for instance, you right now. I take my tablet or a notebook or something. That's not very effective. Hold the strand, actually hold it so that, there you go, now it's on there, and then wrap it around. You know, however many times I need to wrap it to finish off the leftover, or I also make mini skeins at about 12 yards for mini skein swaps because mine take 10 yards, my Hexa Puffs and blanket squares, but I know that a lot of people make slightly larger, so I like to leave a little bit extra, just in case. But that way I can just count how many wraps I'm doing with this and then twist it into a mini skein. I'm really, I'm not a very neat mini skein maker because I assume they're going to be knit up right away, so I don't tie the ends together. I don't place ties on them. Some people do, and that is fabulous, but I don't. Sorry. My favorite method, and what I will be, not my favorite method ever, but my favorite method for scraps like this that are pretty small that I will be keeping for myself and using pretty immediately is to butterfly them. So it just kind of looks like a bow tie, actually. And it's really easy to do. So the way that I do it is I take the strand, I wrap it around my thumb so it's out of the way, and then I wrap it around my fingers for however long it takes me to get to almost the end of the yarn. So I only have a few, well, like a foot left. Take the yarn that I've just wrapped around my hand many, many times and wrap this around the center. Not super tight, just tight enough that it pulls in a little bit. And then I push the tail under so it's not going to come out. And this makes a little center pull butterfly without having to without having to pull out a ball winder. And I also wrap this end around the middle and put it under so that it won't get caught, it doesn't unravel. I haven't had any butterflies unravel in the very short time that I've been using them, but I like them for small quantities of yarn that are going to get used pretty quickly. They don't get in messes, they don't take up a lot of space, they squish together pretty well, so I think it's a better option than either of these two. But for a very large quantity, I would probably still go with putting it into a hank. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye! I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye!